We've just reached the end of part 3 of the Poppy War, and as you can probably tell, we are still in the non-stop action mode. We're going to have to do this one in 2 parts, because there is so much to talk about, so I hope you don't mind, but let me remind you that the best way to support this channel is to support the author, buy her books, merch, etc. That way we can continue talking about her wonderful creations. Well, in order to answer that question, we're going to need to go back to the beginning of the novel and listen to a story told by one of Rin's guardian, Alton. You see, after the silence, people started hearing strange sounds in the middle of the night. Subtle at first, like the scrape of fingernails on wood or the scuttling of vermin, then growing louder until they shook the foundations of houses and rattled windows in their frames. Well, because these 3 events changed the world of the Poppy War forever. They are a secretive society of women who live in relative obscurity and use their powers to shape the landscape and protect nature. But after the breaking, they were forced to interact with humans in order to survive. And when the blight hit, they had to flee north to avoid being frozen. And so they were forced to hide their identities and live among humans. And that is how the shamanic users eventually became known as the Alex, and how their leader, Sudalian, became known as the Shepherd, or the Shepherd. But for now, I think that's enough for one video. So I'm going to leave you off with this cliffhanger, and I'll catch you next time. Bye! And according to legend, the Shepherd has the power to turn the tides of the blight and bring warmth back to the land. Their power comes from the land itself, which they treat as sacred. As it turns out, the world is not ready for another cataclysm, and so the shamanic users are trying to find the Shepherd and bring her back in order to restore balance to the world. And Rin, well, she is about to become a key part of that plan. But sometimes their powers get out of control, and that is what happened during the breaking. See, they used too much power and broke the land. The blizzard was actually the last vestige of their power, breaking through the surface and wreaking havoc. And unfortunately, it seems that this may happen again. The silence itself seems to have weakened the barrier between this world and another, and the honored matrons are starting to feel the effects. After the blight, the entire northern half of the continent was pretty much abandoned, and most of the survivors headed south, fleeing the ever-present threat of frostbite and famine. After all, no one knew how far south the blight would eventually reach, and as you can imagine, this caused quite the population boom in the south. But as time went on, the blight seemed to slow down. The snow fell less frequently, and when it did, it melted within a few days. By the time we reach Rin's story, the blight has all but disappeared. However, the memories of it are still very much alive. Then they fell silent again. Only in the daylight did people discover the damage wrought by those unseen forces. Fields were trampled, roofs caved in, walls split and ran like weeping sores. Some blamed Nakara, the land's benevolent earth mother, for growing tired of humankind. Others spoke of malevolent spirits unleashed by the mad Emperor Asiso, whose reign had ended in madness and murder. Travelers fled inland, abandoning coastal cities and river towns to the mercy of winds that moaned across empty squares. Trade collapsed and famine stalked the land. All the while, the earth groaned nightly and whispered of an approaching winter unlike any the world had known. You see, there were 3 events that took place before the events of this novel that would eventually lead to where we are today. It never melted. Neither did the snow that fell the following year, nor the year after that. All winter, the sky rained down frozen needles. By the year 260, northern fields were buried under 6 feet of ice, the southern mountains crowned with frost. Each sunrise brought blizzards that swept across the land, freezing men and beasts alike. Those who survived huddled around fires, praying for spring to come. But the sun grew dim and cold, and the snows kept falling. In some places, they fell for 10 years straight. Spring never came. Summer never came. Autumn never came. These events are called the cataclysms. And before we start, just a reminder, be nice, be kind, let's get started. So let's get right into it. First off, Rin has made it to the capital city of Atolia, and she and her companions are now safely tucked away in the estate of one of the wealthiest families. She is finally safe, for now, from the brutal assassin Jiang and his mysterious benefactor. But even here, Rin does not find peace. Why? Well, this estate is actually a trap laid out by Kyo. He set it up in order to spy on the movements of the Southern Army. As it turns out, he's been working with them this whole time. Now, this isn't the first time he's betrayed Rin, but it might as well be because while she was trying to take down Jiang, she also received orders from the general to kill him. So she didn't really have a choice. But okay, let's talk about the silence, shall we? What is this all about? And what is this songless hour everyone keeps talking about? The first cataclysm was the silence. It began with silence. Not the ordinary hush of snowfall or the reverent stillness of prayer. This was deeper. A silence that fell inside the ears. It came suddenly at the turning of the solstice. The bells of Ganel did not toll. The ravens of Blackspur did not call. Across the land, from mountain pass to coastal shoal, all sound vanished for exactly 61 minutes, and then returned, but nothing was the same. In the forests surrounding Ironthal, the leaves no longer rustled. The wind blew, yes, but it passed through branches without resistance, as though the trees themselves feared to be heard. Dogs howled without making noise. Babbling brooks moved, but their waters made no music. And the song that children once hummed every dusk, it stopped utterly. In its place, something new took root. People began dreaming of staircases, long, descending, spiral, carved from salt, always descending. In every dream, at the base of the stairs, stood a mirror, but none who reached it could recall their reflection. In a hamlet near the border, a baby was born with no mouth. The midwife screamed, but no sound emerged. The child's heartbeat, however, could be heard by everyone in the room, pounding like war drums. 3 villagers died of aneurysms before dawn. In the palace, the queen summoned no court. She simply sat, her crown glowed faintly, pulsing with a rhythm no one could place, save for a deaf gardener who claimed, in a letter, that it matched the pulse of the earth beneath his feet. Next, we have the breaking. This occurred 25 years after the silence. After that came the blight. In the year 256, the first snow fell on it. Now, you may be wondering, why am I telling you all this? But wait, there's more. It turns out that the breaking was actually a natural disaster caused by powerful shamanic users known as the honored matrons. But wait, there's still more. In order to protect themselves and their powers, the shamanic users lived mostly in isolation until the cataclysms, but unfortunately, the shepherd is missing. And without her, the shamanic users are losing control over the land. If you want to know how it all ends, then please buy the book. Go on, I'll wait. Welcome back. And now that we're back, I can tell you that we are definitely not done talking about the honored matron.